What's up, everybody? It's January 22nd, 2019, and this is vlog number 4. Recap of last week's vlog. I talked a lot about how we are spirit on the deepest level and how our spirit can resonate with the deeper truths that I believe are of reality that will help you to grow towards more life. And you can witness that life take place in your own body and in your world around you, depending on what you choose to put into your thoughts that take place on a daily basis, on a moment by moment basis. The deepest truths that I've been operating on, I've still got the list up here, are enthusiasm, joy, love, gratitude, and certainty. Those are the ones that I've been focusing on. They've been making a crazy amount of difference every morning when I set my mind to those things and I bring myself back to them when necessary, when I find that my mind isn't operating in those, which a lot of times we're not. A lot of times we are operating in negativity, and those things have an effect on us as well. This week, I wanted to take it a little bit further, though. I wanted to talk about how consciousness itself, I believe, is an energy form. And there are some interesting things that we can look at right now that kind of help to add some weight to that argument. The first thing that I think is just kind of interesting, one verifiable way, animals recognize consciousness, I believe. They are capable of recognizing energy that comes from different people. You've probably been around dogs, or I believe that horses do the same thing. They can sense it, they can feel it when there's fear, or if there's positivity, they will warm up to certain people that they shy away from for whatever reason. Now, I'm not saying that everybody that a dog shies away from or a horse shies away from is a bad person, but it does say something that there is some kind of an interesting connection that they are capable of sensing that we, a lot of times in our rational way of thinking, we don't think that we are able to comprehend. But I do feel like we as humans, we can sense these things too. Our body responds to different forms of thinking. Studies show that when you are an optimistic thinker versus a pessimistic thinker, the optimistic thinker will live a longer life. This is not even questioned. It's documented in many different ways. So that's definitely, an indication that there is a higher form of energy at play within our bodies when we are thinking positively. I think that an argument could be made that everything that we see in human civilization, the buildings that we've made, the progress that we've made as humans, it's all here by direction of our consciousness. You can see all the things that are there that we've built, that we've progressed to, and something that did not used to be has come into being. And it's largely responsible because of our own energy inside of our minds that has generated it into reality. But I'm going to give you a couple more mind-blowing things that I've been researching lately, and these are pretty profound and crazy. So Princeton University they have an area of their studies called the Global Consciousness Project. Again, I'm going to leave you with all of the information that I've been looking at, and you can study it for yourself, see what you think. But they have these random event generators that they track, all these computers across the world that they use to determine if events take place in a particular way that's different when there are collectively people thinking about a certain topic versus if there is not a unified collective thought kind of taking place in the world. These random events seem to happen more. They seem to happen as if it's not random when there's a collective emotional response going on at the time of these events. The main one that they've talked about is 9/11. Back in 2001, when the terrorist attack happened on the World Trade Center, the entire world was kind of all engaged in this, and they have data that shows that different events took place that would otherwise be labeled as random, that seems to line up in accordance with this collective mental outpouring that was taking place during that. And so there are other ones that they've documented as well. I would say that the most profound example, though, of why I believe that consciousness is energy form is a thing called the double slit experiment. On the smallest level, I've talked a little bit in the past about the quantum state and how the things on the quantum level, they operate as if they are potential. It's just basically energy fields, but they don't actualize into anything until they are observed. When they are observed, they operate as if they are an actual event. So the double slit experiment, they shot waves of light through these two slits and onto a wall back behind the slits. And when these light waves were not being observed, they behaved as wave patterns. However, when they were observed with their equipment, they discovered that the light actually behaved as if they were individual particles. So it went from a state of no observation to a state of observation. Now, people kind of could question, all right, was it just because of the equipment that did this, or was it because of actual consciousness that made these things happen? There is some discussion over which of those two things it is, but there are a lot of scientists on board with the possibility that it's actual consciousness itself, that when you look at something or when you interact with something, a potential of energy becomes something real. And so that's pretty wild. There's something called the quantum Zeno effect that they have actually documented, that when there is an atom that is not being observed, it behaves as if it is a waveform. When you observe it, it locks into place as an actual point of data. And if you keep your focus on it, it freezes, almost like it freezes in time. And then if you look away, or if you stop observing it, it goes back to energy form again, waveform. Look back again, it locks back in and stays at a fixed point. That's pretty crazy. So we're talking about consciousness affecting the fundamental levels of reality. So before anybody gets thinking like, dude, this is getting a little bit crazy, I just want to remind you guys, those of you who are watching who believe in God and who have read the Bible, there are examples all throughout the Bible that talk about prophets, including Jesus, doing things where they've actually shifted reality to something different, that they've affected the natural state of things, and the only thing that we have to point to is their connection with God. So God is the ultimate form of consciousness. We are just all I believe that we are all drawn to him. And I believe that there are instances, the Bible would have some of those instances, but I don't think it's just limited to the Bible, where people have tapped into this connection with God or the ultimate consciousness, and they have altered reality because of it. How do you think that Jesus walked on water? I believe that Jesus walked on water because he has a relationship with consciousness, which has a relationship with physical reality as well. There's also talk in this global consciousness project put on by Princeton University that suggests that there could be some play between like the electromagnetic field and our consciousness. So it's documented that the electromagnetic field affects the pineal gland inside of our brain, depending on what frequencies they introduce to it. So the question then comes, can it then be affected the other way too? Can our consciousness, can the in the pineal gland, which is often in a lot of like mystical texts referred to as the third eye, or the eye to the soul, does this possibly have an effect back the other way on the electromagnetic field? So you take what their studies are suggesting, and it makes a pretty convincing argument of that. Oh, okay. So basically, all of those things are interesting in the sense that they're supplying a scientific basis for why it's important to believe things about ourselves and about our reality that can change our reality. I want to give an example of something that happened to me the other day where, and this is a real thing for everybody, the universe that goes on inside of each of our minds on a day-to-day basis can look completely different to each observer, from one observer to the other. For example, if you're walking out in the sun, you might be appreciating the beautiful day, or you might be caught in dread and in fear of something that is possibly going to happen or not happen, but you've got this feeling that it's going to, depending on what you're doing that day, or maybe it's something that's just on autopilot that's causing this feeling in there, where you can get stuck in a feeling of dread or fear or foreboding, and you don't even know why it's there, but it affects you and it affects the things around you. So an example for me that just happened the other day, I was driving in my car, and I've been practicing, as I've been saying, on choosing what frame of mind I want to be operating under. I want to be operating under a life-giving one that is positive, and one that focuses on positive emotions. I was driving the other day, though, and I noticed that there was just this sense of fear or foreboding within my spirit. And I kind of, as I've been meditating, I've been getting more used to recognizing those things just lingering there. But instead of thinking that that was who I was, thinking that this fearful impression was something that was part of me and this deep concern that I needed to be worried about, I recognized it as a feeling, and I immediately said, that's not something that I need in my life. And the second that I did that, poof, the feeling left me. So this fear that by its very presence, over the last number of years, has haunted me for who knows what reason other than that it's there, and so it makes me wonder what's wrong with me. That just vanished just like that. I actually started laughing because of it. It was like such a profound change in a state of being. It goes from negative to positive just like that. A more real life example of that, where it's practical, where I'm seeing that people are actually changing their reality with their mentality. Maybe that should be a coin phrase: change your reality with your mentality. I have a friend, and I witnessed this happen. She has this thing where she says that she has a deal with the universe that she will always find a front row parking space wherever she's going. I was with her one day, and it happened. Now, obviously that could have just been coincidence, but she says it happens to her all the time. She's not the only one that has said that. Little things like that. Now, do I believe that events can change or will take place completely differently depending on how you're looking at reality at that moment? Yeah, I think I do. And maybe that's something that's coming over me and changing me as I've been practicing this meditation and putting myself into the frame of life and seeking it out. As I said before, too, neuroplasticity, it's something that will grow in accordance with whatever you're thinking. Your own brain forges pathways of thinking that affect your body depending on what you're thinking. So if you're thinking something positive, your body can actually start to heal itself. I'll reference back to where I said that optimistic people live longer than pessimistic people. That's a fact of life. Now, how deep can we take that? I think that that's an interesting question. And that's one of the things I'm researching. And it's also one of the main components of my book that I'm writing right now, the sci-fi book. In it, there are these men and women that they get a connection with the spirit of God to such an extent that they're actually changing reality. I really believe that that's what prophets of the Bible, I believe that that's what Jesus was doing. I believe that Jesus was tapped into God to such an extent that he was able to change reality in certain instances. Now, you guys might be saying, well, that's Jesus. That's not me. Jesus himself said, these things and greater will you do in my name. And so I just want to leave you guys with that. I want you guys to think about being positive, think about being life giving. That's what I'm going to continue to study and what I'm going to continue to practice. I'll continue to keep you guys updated on it. For now, that's all I've got, and I will check in with you guys again next week for vlog number 5. Thanks. Have a great day.